Now, what about UKIP? Aren't they still seen too much as just about pulling us out of the European Union? Or can they offer anything more? Jen Conway has this.
Last year, more than 1 in 10 London voters opted for UKIP in the European elections, returning one UKIP MEP to Brussels. But in general and local elections, with more issues at stake than just the EU, UKIP have quite a job in their hands to remind people of their other policies, such as a 5-year freeze on anyone claiming British citizenship, creating jobs with a public works scheme, and a tougher approach to law and order. So will this be enough?
UKIP, I think, they have tried a bit, sort of slightly fierce and occasionally rather authoritarian-sounding social policies beyond just getting out of Europe. But in the end, they're seen predominantly as an anti-EU party.
But with none of the major parties now offering voters a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty, UKIP may well pick up votes from those disillusioned with the mainstream parties. Whether it is enough to win them a seat in Parliament is a different matter altogether.
Jen Conway. Quick change here at City Hall. I'm joined by UKIP MEP Gerard Batten. Welcome to you. Let's just get this out of the way first if we can. It's slightly embarrassing this week that one of your leading candidates made some very derogatory racial remarks, Romanian gypsies, Muslims, African Caribbeans. What do you say about that?
Well, I think you're talking about Paul Whiffin, our London chairman. Paul this was on a blog late at night. He accepts that the language was immoderate and he shouldn't have spoken in the terms that he did to the person that he was addressing on the blog. He stood aside as London chairman. That issue will be resolved after the election. He's continuing in Ilford South. On the content of what he said, interestingly, your comments about what he said about Romanian Egyptians, he got his information from a BBC documentary commissioned by BBC and broadcast a few months ago, which highlighted this very problem. And on Friday, there were stories in the Telegraph and the Evening Standard about Romanian gypsies.
It's probably not so much about the facts; it's about the tone, isn't it?
What we're unhappy with is the tone of the way and the personal name calling that went on. And I think that he accepts he shouldn't have done that.
Not a good example.
He's learned his lesson.
As we move away from controversy over Europe, and as we see that everyone seems to be having a lot more grown-up conversations about immigration, does your relevance just keep on ebbing away here?
Absolutely not, because I think what we're picking up from the doorstep is people are fed up with the old failed parties who can't actually do anything about these problems, and awareness is growing that all these things are now decided in the European Union. According to the Germans, who did a study on this, 83% of new laws now come from the European Union. The three main parties, or the three old failed parties as we should like to call them, are actually kind of talk about these things because it's now done in Europe. An immigration policy, for example, now, there's nothing they can do about the 450 million Europeans who may choose to come here if they want, and the countries that are lined up to join the European Union. If you add them all up, there's another 157 million people that could come here if they want to.
But just an indication of where you just may not be, you know, on the right page here in immigration. Polling, you know, the BBC London News, we did, suggested 48% of people disagreed that immigration is good for London, but 45% were happy for it to continue at this level. Between 18 and 34-year-olds, 59% agreed that immigration is good for London. I just wonder, you're out of tune.
Well, I don't think so. The thing that people talk to us about all the time, and you don't even have to ask people, if you get in a taxi or a minicab or talk to people, and they don't even know you're in politics.
Well, you can always find people that can say, but I'm saying,
they're finding us. I mean, I don't know who you're talking to, but people time and time again raise this issue that they're concerned about it. And of course, UKIP isn't opposed to some immigration. What we want is an end to the age of mass immigration, and we want controlled and limited immigration where it's in our country's interests to do so. And we want to put very tight controls on that.
Big issue at the moment. Fares going up in public transport, big investment needed in the tube and whatever. What's UKIP's solution here?
In fact, on our transport policy, we do want to regenerate the railways and the roads and the transport system, open up old railway lines. The only way we can do any of these things is to get out of the European Union, to return all that money that's wasted to us, to get rid of 120,000 regulations that are holding business back, and generate profits that can be taxed.
So Europe's the pot. So what would you do? You'd use this European money as well to what? increase the number of police and the number of prison places you want? You say you're going to be tough on crime. Is that Europe that provides you with the money there?
We mustn't think of just about the money that we have to pay to be a member of the European Union. We've got to look at it in terms of the limitations that it puts on the economy. I've done a study on this, which I've published 3 years in a row, on the cost of the European Union. If you look at over-regulation, common fisheries policy, common agricultural policy, they put a tremendous cost on the economy. If you can free yourself from that cost, you can regenerate the economy and rejuvenate it. And of course, the big danger now for the City of London is that the European Union wants to regulate the City of London. Now, and in fact, the Tories voted for this in the European Parliament. If they regulate the City of London, it will wave goodbye to London, it will go somewhere else, and will be an even bigger problem.
Just one last thing, just questions about your membership base, really. You can't put candidates up in all the 73 seats in London. I mean, you struggle to put, councillors up. Is there any meaningful strength to this organisation now, apart from, proficient spokespeople like you?
That's very kind of you, Tim, thanks. We've got 59 candidates so far for the 73 seats in London. You've got to put that, and we're still trying to put some more in place between now and nomination close, but you've got to put that in the context of nationally, we are doing about 550 candidates. You mentioned earlier that the Greens are doing 300, which is a big achievement for them. We're going to do 550. So across, if you look at the national picture and where we've put resources across national, it's a tremendous breakthrough for us to be able to do 550 candidates out of 645. Of course, we don't have the great organisation and money that the Tories or Labour have, but if you look what's happening to their membership and their donors, that's going down, and people are taking more of an interest in our party, and we're going up.
OK, Gerard Batten, thank you very much for coming in today.